The Post is a political thriller directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. Now, let me get just this out of the way first and foremost. Technically, this is a great-ass movie. It has Steven Spielberg directing it. It has a phenomenal cast, including also Sarah Paulson, Bob Odenkirk, Bruce Greenwood, and a whole lot of other people, Michael Stuhlbarg even. And we also have the famous editor of Spielberg, as well as his cinematographer, his composer, John Williams, Janusz Kaminski. So there are a lot of great people behind and in front of the camera. And technically, they all do a fantastic job, they all bring their A game. And that is all good and all. And the story itself, it's about the Washington Post, its executive editor, and its publisher, played by Hanks and Streep respectively, and their decision to publish Pentagon classified documents about the Vietnam War. The film is set in 1971. And I know that a lot of people love this film. It's actually nominated right now for Best Picture and Best Lead Actress in a Leading Role, Best Actress in a Leading Role, whatever, for the 90th Academy Awards. And while I can see why do I agree with it, actually no. It's not that I didn't like this film, but it's just that it isn't all that great. And that might be something bad, because when you see a Steven Spielberg directed film with Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, you expect greatness, and you're justified. It's not like you have to expect something mediocre. But this film, in my opinion, was pretty mediocre, mostly due to the third act, because it starts off similarly to Lincoln, with a war sequence trying to make things more exciting than they actually will be, and that's fine. There is a little espionage scene with the actual man who took the documents outside of the Pentagon, that's fun. But then we get into the second act, and it's the entire conflict, let's say, of getting these papers and actually choosing whether to publish them or not. And the thing is that, I didn't know this, but when I also watched the film, they say that the New York Times already had some of the papers and they actually published them. So already there is less tension, because some of the papers have already been made public, and there is the risk of the journal being closed, people losing their jobs. That is a huge risk in real life. But the film itself doesn't feel like there are high stakes, which was kind of shocking, because it became pretty passive in terms of watching this film. The only two aspects that keep things from being boring or uninteresting are the acting, which is fantastic, everyone does a great job, and the cinematography by Kaminski. Because other than that, the story is not all that interesting, it isn't really all that relevant. There are huge comparisons, of course, with Nixon's presidency and administration and Trump's administration, and there are obvious ties with each other, but there are bigger problems right now with Trump compared to what happened at the time. They were important, of course, and relevant, but right now there are bigger fishes to fry. So, watching this, you still feel like it isn't as tense as it could have been. And there have been some fantastic journalism films, like Spotlight, which actually won Best Picture 2 years ago. All the President's Men is a classic, and these two films actually have more interesting scenes in the newsroom, and they have more interesting scenes about journalism. This one doesn't really. It's just people talking, which also these other two films did, but you felt the tension, you actually cared about the characters. Especially in Spotlight. Spotlight had a huge cast, this one does as well, but Spotlight, it doesn't feel like any one of the actors is the leading one. It doesn't feel like anyone takes the spotlight from the others. But in this film, it is pretty much only about Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. The only other actor who actually does something is Bob Odenkirk. He's the only one who actually does some journalism, let's say, because he's the one who gets the documents, but other than that, it is kind of a wasted cast. Alison Brie appears just for some scenes, some of the dynamics even aren't all that clear, there are too many names to keep track of even, and it is pretty unfocused in that department. And then we actually get to the third act, and the third act, in my opinion, the film falls apart. It was pretty enjoyable, watchable, kind of interesting even through the first two acts, but the third act, once the paper is published, it becomes painfully heavy-handed in its themes and messages. You've got an actual character, the wife of Tom Hanks, played by Sarah Paulson. She actually explains to him and the audience why this woman, this Graham, the Meryl Streep character, why she was so important, why she was so brave for doing all these things, instead of actually showing the stakes. They tell you, no, she's gonna lose everything because this has been her life. Do you really see that? Honestly, I disagree. I don't think we actually see that in the film. They just explain it to you. She's such a great woman, she's the bravest one of them all. And in the end, when she actually takes a stand, that's a nice scene. You see the arc of Meryl Streep. She's very shy, she's very subdued, which I loved in this film. And in the end, when she actually becomes more strong-willed, it feels powerful, it feels impactful, but then you also get a scene where another girl says, "Oh, I hope you win, lady," and you get dozens of hippie women just staring at her with these faces, these stares, these glazes that just say, "Wow, you're fantastic, I hope to become like you one day." It's pandering, painfully pandering, and I'm all for movies about females, about female empowerment, but this is almost insulting. Do we really need this kind of shit right now? Wonder Woman was better than this, and I wasn't even that big of a fan of Wonder Woman. That was shocking, and also how the power of the freedom of press and everything, how the music swells. They say, "Oh, it has been chosen, the First Amendment, everything is important and relevant, and yay, we need the news to save us from the corrupt government and all the shit they're doing." It's just heavy-handed, that's the thing. Some people are gonna like that, with the John Williams score swelling in the background. I was rolling my eyes, I was like, really? It's not like we don't know these things. And that's the problem. In the world of cinema, the main rule has always been show, don't tell, and this film does a whole lot of telling, with characters constantly explaining what the stakes are, what the issues are, but you never really feel that. And so that's why I think that The Post, technically great, Spielberg knows how to direct a movie, cinematography excellent, the costume design, the sets, they feel authentic, the actors fantastic. But the story is the problem. The story, in how it is executed, in how it is presented, in how it just feels like it was made to be relevant today, but not tomorrow. Because from an historical point of view, it's relatively weak. From a thriller, political thriller point of view, it's relatively mild and not thrilling. That's the problem. That's my problem. Some people are gonna disagree. Obviously, it's nominated for Best Picture, so someone thinks it's a great movie or the best movie of the year. Surprisingly so, in my opinion. But yeah, I honestly would recommend this film just for the sake of it. Like a history lesson, it works now, even though some things have been changed, of course, especially with the New York Times, which had a more relevant role. But overall, it's not a movie that I will ever watch again, and one of Spielberg's weakest, in my opinion, in recent memory. So, well, not worse than than the BFG. But still, guys, if you watched The Post, did you like it or do you dislike it? Do you agree with my opinion or do you disagree with it? Tell me in the comments below. Thanks for watching, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.